Tua Tagovailoa has become an incredibly polarizing player in the NFL. Some people believe that he is a product of having a great receiver in Tyreek Hill and a great coach in Mike McDaniel. Others understand that for any quarterback to be good, they need good players around them. By the end of this video, you'll likely find yourself with a different opinion on Tua's abilities. His parents were supportive and played a crucial role in his football journey. Tua attended St. Louis School in Honolulu, where he quickly gained recognition for his exceptional skills as a quarterback. Championship. Tua's impressive performance caught the attention of college recruiters, and he ultimately chose to play for the University of Alabama. In his freshman year at Alabama, Tua only ever got playing time when the team was winning by 20 or more points, except for one game.
Trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
After a horrible first half by Jalen Hurts, head coach Nick Saban decided it was best to put his legacy in the hands of a true freshman named Tua Tagovailoa. He knew that if they did not win this game, he would face incredible backlash for this decision. Tua started off the second half hot, with a touchdown on his very first drive to Henry Ruggs. With 4 minutes left in the entire game, Alabama found themselves down 20-13. It was not looking great for Tua and his squad. Thankfully, they were able to rally and bring it back to 20-20, and eventually went to overtime. Alabama's defense came up huge, forcing a field goal on the opening drive of overtime. What happened next is something that will likely be shown in Tua's Hall of Fame acceptance speech. It was the birth of an icon. He took a horrendous sack, putting the team well behind the sticks, and in a spot where all odds showed them losing, with the weight of Tuscaloosa on his back, Tua performed.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
As he continued his sophomore season at Alabama, he put up incredible passing numbers and came second in Heisman voting, just behind Kyler Murray. Tua suffered a gruesome hip injury that sidelined him for the rest of his collegiate career. As I said, this injury would sideline him for the rest of the SEC season. Before the injury, he was a consensus #1 overall draft pick. There was even fans chanting, "Tank for Tua." Unfortunately for him, a young man over in Louisiana showed out that season. I know this is a story about Tua, but Joe Burrow is an important character in the story of Tua, so I felt it was a good idea to quickly discuss him. Joe Burrow arguably had the greatest season ever by a collegiate quarterback, with 5,671 yards, 60 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, and of course, the national championship. And when I went back to look up these stats, I mean, wow, bro. And to think that this guy was just sitting on the bench of Ohio State and he just transferred to LSU and turned into this magical prospect. The greatest season ever by a quarterback. Which is why it ties in directly to Tua Tagovailoa. As I said, Tua was the unanimous #1 pick before his junior season. Now comes Joe Burrow, wins literally everything you can win as the quarterback position, and gets taken #1. Now this is where Tua's story truly gets started. Tua obviously got drafted by the Miami Dolphins. Everyone around the league thought that Tua would sit out his rookie season to finish rehabbing his hip injury, but no, the front office decided to rush him out a bit early in this game against the Jets. He didn't do much in this game, but him playing alone caused the entire media whirlwind that was pushing for him to start their next game against the Rams. That game against the Rams ended 17-28 in the Dolphins' favor. I just want you guys to take a second and look at the receivers this kid was throwing to. His entire rookie season. The entire rookie season, these are the players this kid was throwing to. Let me just go through the list. From the top, Myles Gaskin currently plays for the Rams, gets no minutes. Durham Smythe still plays with Miami. Actually, pretty sure he is the starting tight end. Preston Williams, out of the league. Jakeem Grant, out of the league. Isaiah Ford, out of the league. Malcolm Perry, out of the league. Mike Gesicki plays for the Patriots. Devontae Parker plays for the Patriots. Adam Shaheen, free agent, basically out of the league. You're telling me that the entire world expected this kid to perform up to the Heisman runner-up standards with four of his top five starting receivers or leading receivers in his first ever start not even being in the league, and out of all of them, the only ones that actually get minutes, three. And one of them injury prone. Devontae Parker doesn't fucking play much because he's always hurt. Mike Gesicki is fine. Durham Smythe actually plays. Three out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1/3 of his receivers and running backs, because some of them are running backs, from his first start in his rookie season still play. Mind you, that was only 3 years ago. So you can't say, oh yeah, they're old. The oldest player on this list is Devontae Parker, and he's still in the NFL. He still starts for the Patriots, so there's no excuse for the other ones. These players were just horrible, and he was still expected to go out there and win, which he did. He did win. The very next game, his second ever start for the Miami Dolphins. Cardinals versus Dolphins. Kyler Murray versus Tua, Heisman finalist versus Heisman runner-up. The score ended 34-31. Kyler Murray had Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, Chase Edmonds, Andy Isabella. That's all the people I can name that you guys probably remember. Maybe Dan Arnold, Max Williams. I know the names. They're not super popular though. The Dolphins, the same as before. Leading receiver, Devontae Parker, Patriots. Preston Williams, not in the league. Mike Gesicki, Patriots. Jakeem Grant, not in the league. Smythe on Miami. Patrick Laird, not on the team. Matt Collins is still in the league. Malcolm Perry, not in the league. Adam Shaheen, not in the league. While Tua is putting 20 for 28, 248, and 2 touchdowns in his second ever game, and no one ever talks about that. And Kyler Murray on the other side played really well, to be honest. 21 of 26, 283, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Tua also had no picks. Great games by both of those players. But you would think a rookie quarterback in his second ever start goes head-to-head with one of the better quarterbacks in the league at that point. Because Kyler was already in the league before Tua. Goes head-to-head with one of the better quarterbacks. Wins, doesn't outperform him, but goes head-to-head, one for one, punch for punch. And nobody talks about it. Nobody cares because he has a noodle arm and whatever. By the end of his rookie season, the Miami Dolphins found themselves at 10-6. They ended up missing the playoffs somehow just because of how loaded the AFC was. Now is when we're going to have to skip to his sophomore season because this is where he begins to slip in his career. Through a mixture of bad coaching, bad players on his team, rats on his team snitching on him, talking bad about him, his career begins to unwind in a bad way. At the beginning of his second season in the draft, the Dolphins did actually make one really good decision, and they picked up Jalen Waddle with the 6th pick after trading their pick with the Niners and then trading back up with the Eagles. They drafted Jalen Waddle, who turned out to be a pretty solid player in the NFL. But now, in week 2 of the NFL against the Bills, in a 35-0 loss, Tua got hurt very early on in the game. This injury caused Jacoby Brissett to take over for the remainder of this game, resulting in the 35-0 loss. Tua came back in London against the Jaguars. The Dolphins were 1-4 at that point against the 0-5 Jaguars, and they lost, sadly. Trevor Lawrence played a hell of a game. Tua played a hell of a game. They ended up losing, sadly. After starting 1-5, Tua came back and led the team to a 9-8 record, which is incredible. Again, with the same weapons, plus Waddle. In the following offseason, a lot of controversy was stirred about the Dolphins. They fired their head coach Brian Flores. He then turned around and tried to sue the Miami Dolphins and the NFL for blackballing him out of the NFL because of his race, because he was black, is what he said. He said that NFL teams, the Miami Dolphins specifically, only hired him because they needed to fill some quota and then fired him after 2 seasons, even though he was having a successful career so far. Other than that, more controversy about the Dolphins wanting to move off of Tua Tagovailoa in favor of Tom Brady and replace Brian Flores with Sean Payton. The Miami Dolphins ended up getting fined and had to forego their first round pick in the following year because of it. Here is former Miami Dolphin Kyle Van Noy discussing his time playing under Brian Flores and what he believed was going on between the GM, management, and the coach and Tua.
I believe I was just in the middle of a civil war, they call it, between like the GM and the head coach. And that like going on, the power struggles that you don't see behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And it was kind of him like, oh, this was your guy? Well, see ya. Kind of what happened. Another thing down there that happened was some players were talking to the media about Tua and blah, 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 blah. And a lot of people thought it was me.
Yeah.
And then
I heard
people
that.
don't know this, but me and Tua are close. Like, I know Tua, and like for me to like go to like one of the beat writers seems like that's crazy to me. And a lot of like people down there thought I was like feeding these beat writers information, which was like, what? After I got cut, they asked me about like Brian Flores, and then literally like 2 hours after that, someone sent me a news article that came out saying like I was a bad captain, I was a bad teammate, X, Y, and Z, and that was just them trying to like cover themselves of why they cut me, I guess. I don't know. But there's a lot more that goes
crazy.
into, and like Tua talks about it all the time in his relationship of, going from what he had of, he was scared to make a mistake, didn't feel comfortable, and now he gets to be himself. He talks trash on the podium now, It's kind of cool. I'm happy for his success. It's big when that happens, when you struggle a couple years and then have some success like his team has right now. Even though they lost to the Eagles, they're still pretty good dang team.
Yeah.
This just shows how much of a toxic situation not only Tua was, not only Kyle was, but the entire team. I mean, I'm sure Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, Myles Gaskin, these guys who don't play anymore or barely play, I'm sure that they weren't happy being in this situation where their head coach didn't like their quarterback, their GM didn't like their head coach, their quarterback didn't like the head coach. Nobody liked each other, it seems, on this team between management, coaching, and players. It seemed like those three tiers of the staff, I guess you could say, all didn't like each other, which is not a good working environment. I'm sure you've worked in a place where you hated your manager, or you hated your boss, or your boss hated you. You just don't want to come to work. The fact that he was still performing at a pretty high level despite all this adversity just goes to show how resilient he is. But now comes my honest favorite part of this whole episode, this whole video, my favorite part right here. Under Mike McDaniel, Tua Tagovailoa so far in these last season and a half almost has absolutely flourished and become an MVP caliber player week in and week out. His first season with Mike McDaniel started off hot and continued to get hotter, except for the Bengals game. I will not be showing the footage at all because nobody needs to relive that. Against the Bengals in week 3 and on a Thursday night game, I remember because I was watching the game at work and they let me leave work early specifically to watch the game, just for me to witness the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, get absolutely power-driven into the floor and concussed. And I don't want to say anything, but you know what happened with his hands in the air. Really bad things happened. It was very terrifying. The injury called for medical experts to tell Tua to retire. YouTube journalists and Twitter phenoms were telling Tua that he should retire because the injury was so bad, and it said him if he kept playing he was going to destroy his brain. But what did Tua do? Did he retire? No. He waited his 3 weeks. When he came back, the Miami Dolphins were 3-3. They lost all the games he wasn't playing and the Bengals game that he got kicked out because of injury. What happened after? The Dolphins just happened to run off a quick little 5-game win streak and get to 8-3 before igniting the start of Brock Purdy after Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt against the Miami Dolphins and Brock Purdy came in and absolutely wiped them. Tua did sadly get hurt on Christmas Day again, another concussion against the Green Bay Packers in a game that ended 26-20 in the Packers' favor. Tua ended up missing the rest of the season, which saw the Dolphins barely making the playoffs with Skylar Thompson as their quarterback, because not only did Tua get hurt, but Teddy Bridgewater also got hurt, meaning Skylar Thompson, the third-string quarterback, was called up to start. The Dolphins played the Bills in the wild card round, lost by 3 points with Skylar Thompson starting, mainly because Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions. Now, this season, the Miami Dolphins currently sit at 6-3 at the time of me recording this video, and have an 87% chance of making the playoffs, and have a 40% chance of winning their division for the first time in about 20 years. In Week 1, the Miami Dolphins beat the Los Angeles Chargers due to a beautiful game-winning drive by Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill.
Tagovailoa, hunt the block, Tua on the move, going deep, speed race, he's got Hill! He's got Hill! He beat James! Tagovailoa, a dart, Craycraft, 9-yard line, brought down by James, 15-yard strike. Azakoma is in the backfield, and they go to the end zone, and caught, Hill, touchdown! Touchdown! The Dolphins have recaptured the lead!
They then went into Foxborough, beat the Patriots, and then, just casually dropped 70 points on the Denver Broncos. A game where literally everybody got a touchdown. Some of them got 3 or 4. Of course, no season's perfect. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. The next game, the Dolphins had to go into Buffalo, and they got their ass handed to them. They lost 48-20. They must have been riding high before from the Broncos game. They then rattled off another 2 wins, beating the Giants and the Panthers. Then they lost to the Eagles on Sunday Night Football in a pretty controversial game where the Dolphins had 10 flags against them and the Eagles had 0. But that's neither here or there, whatever. They then beat the Patriots and lost to the Chiefs this past Sunday in Germany because Tyreek Hill thought he was still on the Chiefs. This kid's story, of course, is not over yet. And as we speak, he is number 1 or 2 in MVP odds, depending where you look. This story just goes to show that no matter how many times you get knocked down, or you get hurt, or you get told you're not good enough, you always have the power through it. Because at the end of the day, you are the only person that can tell you how good you are. If you think this was a good video, please let me know in the comments, as well as who else you would like to see a story like this on. Have a great day.